Serious people who have slept with their boss for a promotion/raise. Was it worth it? I slept with a camp director and she gave me a good job as a camp counselor. I had a higher salary than all the other counselors. Would do it again in a second. Edit. This is a day camp. I'm not sure this counts, though, because the iron law of summer camp is that everyone on staff is boinking everyone all the time. Hell, the 16-year-old me got to third base at camp, and if you'd known me then, you'd understand how big a statement that is. Edit. Exception acknowledged for overwhelmingly single-sex camps, like BSA. Exception not acknowledged for Bible camps, like mine. Teenagers gone teen. Where does one apply for a job at those camps you're talking about? I was the boss sleeping with my employee. She was a very mediocre employee to begin with. Raging alcoholic. Would come to work looking like hell with black eyes and wet hair. Never on time. After we started sleeping together, I think she developed the attitude that she had to start performing better at work, or it would be obvious there was something going on when she didn't get fired. Within a few weeks she's a model employee, probably far better than even I was. She received several small lateral promotions within a few months. One I was involved in, and one I was not. We ended up dating for over a year, while I was still her boss, before we both left the business. We both started looking for other employment because of our relationship and found better jobs with better pay. A few years later we are still together and now living together and engaged. I slept with my boss. We were all out having drinks and were sharing a cab. She told the cab driver to just drop both of us off at her place and I gladly went with it. I transferred to another department shortly thereafter because we both agreed it was weird now. Unbeknownst to me, I was giving a raise and a new title when I transferred. I always thought of it as a reward for being discreet. I had sex with her because she was a hot older woman. The raise I got later was unexpected. It seems to me like the men that sleep with their bosses have far more positive experiences than the women. I slept with my boss, got a raise, and now I'm married to him. It was a good life choice. I slept with my boss and ended up quitting the job before she could give me any sort of promotion. Mostly because we were moving towards having a relationship and I didn't want that power dynamic to muddy it. Was it worth it? Quitting your job, I mean. Yes, that job was just that, a job, not a career. I've since moved on to a better opportunity. Pretty awesome. She sat on my face, and I got $3 more an hour to lifeguard the local pool. Best summer job I ever had. Edit. Faster sitting got me a $3 raise and Reddit gold. Boom. Every lifeguarding job I've ever worked, everyone was sleeping with everyone else. Bosses included. Lifeguards are just pretty as duck. When I was in high school I worked at a pretty large movie theater in my area. It was a lot like a restaurant in the sense that everyone is ducking everyone and partying most nights together. We had a very cute manager who was probably about 30ish and pretty strict on most of the guys who worked there. Mainly because we were little high school shitheads that thought we were the cat's pajamas. Anyway, I hooked up with her after a party and it was great. We became FWBs, and since she was in charge of the time clock she would often clock me in a couple hours early on slow days before I showed up. So I was getting paid full-time 40-hour weeks while only working about 20 hours. She would also have me stay late to clean up after late shows, and we would duck in the regional manager's office since it was the only one without cameras, and because the regional manager was a fear-mongering bitch. Good story. Sounds like win/win to me. I joke that I fired my ex-wife so I could duck her. She ducked me in the end, and half the town. I'm sad. Open and I think that had something to do with me getting hired, no experience whatsoever. It was generally a nice experience. I got a ton of special treatment and a couple free lunches. It also didn't hurt that he was in the closet, and I'm sure he appreciated my discretion. I had an FWB off topic, but I always get a kick out of how you can tell if someone reads an acronym as the letters or the actual words like this. If Op thought of FWB as friends with benefits, he'd have said a FWB instead of an FWB, because the acronym reads like FWB. I had sex with my manager so I could become a full-time waitress. When I started working at my current job, I was a hostess. Eventually I was able to wait tables part-time, but still, most of my hours were for shifts as a hostess, which only paid minimum wage. I kept pestering the GM and AMs to be made a full-time waitress, but there just weren't enough shifts at the time. Eventually my GM announced that he would be leaving to open another restaurant in another state, not part of our small chain, completely different franchise. He ended up taking me aside to tell me that he really wanted to make sure I was promoted to full-time server before he left. I was thrilled. He asked if I'd like to talk about it with him at his house that night. I said absolutely. When I got to his place, I realized right away that there was a total quid pro quo type of thing in the works. Yes, he'd make sure I officially became a full-time waitress. He promised that while stroking my thigh, though, and that's when I realized what was happening. Yes, I did it. Keep in mind, I never felt threatened or pressured. I wanted the promotion. He wanted sex, and I was okay with that. Did it make me feel a little dirty? Definitely, but it was actually a really fun night that I don't regret. Was it worth it? Absolutely. At the time I was barely able to pay my bills. I was literally living paycheck to paycheck. In the 2+ years since, I've managed to save a pretty decent amount of money. When it's not killing me, I like the work too. But if I'd had to wait for that promotion, especially after that GM left, it would have probably been months before I became a full-time waitress. There's no way I would have been able to manage that, and I'd have probably ended up getting a different job. So yeah, I was happy with the results. This may get me downvoted into oblivion, or not. It's hard to tell with Reddit sometimes, but I'm really curious. I know you say that, for your personal situation at least, this was alright for you. I get that and respect that. What is your opinion of the situation in general though? What about a woman who doesn't want to have sex with her boss for a promotion? Should she really be denied access to a better life simply because she is a woman who isn't willing to cooperate? I don't mean this to be inflammatory. I'm just curious how you feel on that part of the subject as someone who made that choice and is fine with it. Well, keep in mind that the job I had wasn't at stake. Neither was the hope for ever becoming a full-time waitress. If my boss had been saying, either have sex with me or you're fired, the situation would have been entirely different. In this case, well, look at it like this. Right now I get the best shifts at my restaurant. I also get tons of perks. For example, just 2 weeks ago I wanted to leave early when I was actually scheduled to close, and my manager arranged it so I could. Or just the other day, when I requested 9 days off in January, he didn't bat an eyelash. Not every waitress enjoys those kinds of privileges. What makes me different? No, not the sex I had with that long since gone Grams. What makes me different is that I'm willing to go above and beyond, and my managers know that. If someone calls in sick, they know they can count on me to cover a shift. Even at the last minute, when they need volunteers to help put up Christmas decorations, I'm their girl. When a VIP, usually a friend/family member of the chain's owner, comes in and they need a waitress to serve them and them only, meaning that at the end of the day the tips aren't going to be very good. One table, even when it tips well, does not make up for dozens of tables throughout the night. I happily agree to do it. None of those things listed above are required. Pretty much every waitress at my work refuses to do anything beyond what they are required to do. Can you pick up this shift? Nope. Want to stay late to help decorate? No way. My shift ends at 2 AM. Can you take care of Mr. Blank's party tonight? No. Give me a regular section, please. I also don't whine and complain when customers cross the line, unless they really cross the line. Technically, No, I don't have to put up with it. But in the real world, putting up with that is just part of the job. My point is that in any job you can figure out what exactly you have to do in order to not get fired and only do that. Or you can be willing to do more. Not many people fall into the latter category. Most people just do the minimum and scoff at those who are willing to do more. But those of us who do, we get the last laugh. When I need a shift covered, I get it no problem. I need to take time off, no questions asked. I tell a manager that a customer has been out of line. He knows it's the real deal. My cousin, with whom I'm very close, is an intern at a law firm. Back in April I was visiting home and met him and 3 of his friends / co-interns at a bar. They were making fun of him for being their boss little bitch. Why? Because he'd helped the man move. He volunteered to bring him coffee every morning. Things like that. His fellow interns said he was being a suck up and a pussy and had a good laugh at his expense. Guess who ended up being offered a full-time job 3 months later? Him. Those interns who mocked him no longer work there. Having sex shouldn't be required, obviously. But I don't feel bad for our hypothetical woman who refused to do so in my situation. She kept her convictions. She didn't degrade herself, etc. Good for her. But I bet she's still earning minimum wage. You conviction / pride / etc. don't pay the bills. There's no cash bonus handed out at the end of the year based on how right you were. If you want to make it in this world, drive your boss to the airport when he asks. Bring him his coffee. Help with the decorations. And if he wants a hot and steamy one night stand, in order to feel powerful, let the baby have its bottle. Currently sleeping with my boss. We work at a bar. He manages and I cocktail waitress. He's working on his mechanical engineering degree, eventually, and looking for a new job. And I just got out of active duty, so this is both a temporary job for us, and we'll both be quitting within the next year. Aside from a free meal, while on my shift, usually we get 50% off, but he just camps it. I haven't really gotten extra benefits. Obviously I'm only dating him for the free meals and penis. Been dating for 3 months now. Edit. I told him about the thread. This was the conversation that came of it. Link. com/7h9e. Does anyone at work know? Do they care? 2 of our close work friends know. They don't care, and they said they couldn't tell at all that we were dating. Slept with my boss. She wasn't hot, but cute, and I had never been with a curvy girl before. We left a company award ceremony and had a long drive back to our branch, 2.5 hours. Well, long story short, she ended up giving me roadhead and we pulled over to duck. It was fun, and we continued our relationship for about 6 months. It ended when she was promoted to regional manager because she was always traveling to different branches. Never got a raise nor a new position. I got to brag to my buddies though. You could have been promoted to assistant to the regional manager, at least. Slept with my boss when I was 17 and she was 24. No forethought to promotion or a raise, but just because she was an older woman. Sexy, and I was crap with women at that time. It was all good in the end. Happened a couple of times. I got privileges like the hours I wanted at work and in the sections I wanted, as well as a side benefit. Left the job when I went to university and all was good. I would do it again most likely, but not for promotion or advancement, but just because it was good fun. Have slept with a coworker a couple of times. I would say that was more problematic than with my boss. I must admit there are bosses I've had that I would have liked to have slept with. Not for promotion or a raise, but because there is something very attractive about a woman in power. She wasn't all that bad looking. I didn't get a raise, but it got her so far off my back because she was afraid of the consequences. She hated me before. She was terrified of me after the fact. It was beautiful. I didn't do anything for the rest of the summer. Also, it helped that I was 17 and she 32. Edit. Holy shit, thanks for the karma, guys. She hated you so much she ducked you? That sounds like a fantasy. Yeah. When I was young, she was a sub from the downtown branch. Introduced me to some terrible music. Treated me so well in bed. I guess I had it easy after that. But we served ice cream. It was already super basic. This reads like modern Raymond Chandler. When I was 16 I worked at McDonald's. I ended up secretly dating to Ike and got pay raises, more breaks and could choose my hours/roles, which was pretty sweet. Wasn't intentional though. Sorry, but what's to Ike? Not my boss, but I'm sleeping with my boss's daughter. My boss knows about us and has yet to say anything or treat either of us differently. I don't mean to toot my own horn, but I'm a very good and loyal employee there. So I think he knows that it'd be a bad business decision to fire me based off of an emotional standpoint rather than a rational one. I think the only real consequence I've experienced would be that there have been times where I've been over for dinner and my boss has said, "Oh, I'm adding you on the schedule for tomorrow at 6 AM as we're leaving." It's usually on a Friday or Saturday night when he knows her and I are probably going straight from dinner with her parents to the bar or out to a club with some of our other coworkers. Just as a little duck you, because he knows he can't fire me simply on the basis of dating his daughter, who just so happens to work there as well. We've been dating for 3 months now, and I know they tell you to never shit where you eat, but I would do it all over again. If anything, I feel like it's brought me closer to my boss. He's a totally different guy at home. Funny and just a simple guy who watches football every Sunday. Not that I don't like him at the job. He's respectful and the type of person who's a leader, not just a boss. I'm not sure if it actually is helping, but it feels like he's getting exposed to the real me, not just the work me, seeing what kind of person I'm all the time. So I'm gonna keep on dating his daughter because she's hot as shit and I like her. Hey, thanks for watching and don't forget to subscribe.